Route 9. Late afternoon. The sky sagged low with early October gray. Trees rustled like secrets just out of reach. On the side of the cracked two-lane road, a black Mercedes idled with one tire sagging flat, its hazard lights blinking in rhythm with the silence. Claire stood beside it, phone raised to the sky. 0 bars. Her cashmere coat clung to her shoulders, heels sinking in gravel. A frown at odds with the polished lines of her face. A pickup rumbled around the bend. Faded red. A name half scratched off the door. Wells Garage. It slowed. Stopped. A man climbed out. Grease-stained flannel. Strong hands. Eyes that had seen too much and asked too little. Claire. I'm fine, thank you. I've called someone. Mechanic. Nodding. In this signal? You might be waiting a while. Spares in the trunk? She hesitated. He didn't push. In silence, he knelt beside the tire, unwrapping tools with a surgeon's grace. She watched, quietly stunned. No questions, no comments, just motion. Claire. You always stop for strangers. Mechanic. Only the ones with 3-inch heels and no jack. He cracked a smile. She nearly did. Minutes passed. Tire changed. He wiped his hands with a rag and turned to go. Claire. Wait, what's your name? He paused, tucked the rag in his back pocket. Mechanic. Wells. That's enough. He walked back to his truck. Claire. Softly. Thank you, Mr. Wells. She got in. Engine hummed. As she pulled away, she glanced in the mirror. His truck didn't follow. It just sat there, idling. Like maybe he wasn't just fixing tires that day. She asks for his name, and he doesn't ask for hers. Small town, early morning. Claire drove slow through the narrow streets. One stoplight blinked amber. A hand-painted sign on a fence read, Support Local, Wells Garage, Backlot, with an arrow pointing behind a feed store. She followed it, pulled into a gravel lot. No neon, no signboard. Just a garage door with peeling blue paint. Inside, clutter, metal, soul. Wells Garage, continuous. The scent of oil and morning coffee. Wells was bent under the hood of an old Chevy. Same flannel, same quiet energy. Claire. I didn't come to cause trouble. Just to say thank you. He looked up, didn't smile, just nodded. Wells' car still running smooth? Claire like a charm. I owe you, she extended a crisp $100 bill. He didn't take it. Wells. It wasn't a transaction, just a tire. Claire. But still, it meant something. Wells, pausing. Coffee's fresh. If you're not in a rush, she hesitated, then stepped in, heels clicking on the concrete. He poured from a chipped thermos into mismatched mugs. They sat across from each other, separated by an oily counter and 1,000 unspoken things. Behind her, a child's voice echoed faintly from another room. Child. O.S. Daddy, where's my purple crayon? Claire smiled. As Wells got up, her eyes wandered to a small corkboard above the cash box, tacked in the center. A crayon drawing of 2 stick figures under a sun, one with a wrench, one holding a heart, written in red. For Daddy, love M. She touched the edge of the paper gently. Wells returned with a fresh mug. Wells, my daughter. She's the real boss around here. Claire looked up. Claire. She's lucky. He glanced at the drawing. Wells. No, I'm the lucky one. She sees a little girl's crayon drawing on the counter. For Daddy. Wells Garage. Late afternoon. The day wore a golden coat, light filtering through oil-streaked windows. Claire lingered near the workbench, still sipping the last of the lukewarm coffee. Wells, checking his watch. You hungry? Claire, not really. Her stomach growled. Loudly. He raised an eyebrow. She chuckled, embarrassed. Claire. Okay, maybe a little. Wells' home. Kitchen. Moments later. Small. Lived in. Shoes by the door. One lamp flickering. A box of elbow pasta sat open beside the stove. Wells stirred the pot like a man who didn't need recipes, just rhythm. A little girl, maybe 7, peeked from behind the hallway door. Messy pigtails. One sock, paint smudge on her cheek. Wells. We've got company. Be nice. Emily walked in, holding a plastic tiara and a blue marker. Emily, are you famous? Claire laughs. No, sweetie. Emily. You smell like flowers in city. Claire knelt, smiling. Claire. And you smell like crayons and cookies. They clicked instantly. Dinner was served in paper bowls. No tablecloth, just a table with mismatched chairs and mismatched hearts, learning to sit beside each other. Emily, whispering to Claire. You're pretty. My daddy needs someone pretty. Claire blushed. Wells pretended not to hear. Wells. She says that to the mail lady too. Claire. Then I'm honored. They laughed. Not loudly, but enough to loosen something inside all three of them. Living room, night. Emily yawned, curled up in Claire's lap, tiara sliding sideways. Emily, half asleep. Are you gonna be my new mom? Claire froze. Wells looked over from the sink and didn't say a word. The daughter whispers, Are you going to be my new mom? Small town diner, morning rain. Rain came slow, like it had second thoughts. A soft drizzle coated the windows of May's diner, blurring the town beyond. Inside, a bell chimed as Claire stepped in. Ponytail. Flannel. Still not used to coffee brewed strong and served without questions, she slid into a booth by the window, steam fogging the glass beside her. Behind the counter, May, mid-60s, salt and honey hair, poured a refill for a regular. May. Loudly, to no one. Strange to see a Benz around these parts, unless someone's lost. Claire stiffened. Booth regular, half whispered. Some say she's from the city. Trouble maybe, or money running from a mess. May, or chasing one. Claire turned her face to the window. Outside, a familiar red pickup pulled up. Wells stepped out. Baseball cap, faint limp. He spotted her inside. Walked in. Wells mornin'. Claire, smiling. You stalking me now? Wells. Nah. This is the only place with pie that doesn't taste like cardboard. He sat across from her. May approached, refilling both mugs. May you two know each other? Claire hesitated. A single moment too long. Claire, gently. We just met last week. I'm... Anna. Wells blinked. He didn't correct her. May smiled politely but lingered a beat too long before walking away. Wells, softly after a moment. Anna, huh? Claire. It's easier sometimes, not being known. He nodded. Unreadable. Outside, thunder cracked like a warning no one could hear. Inside, 2 people sipped coffee, pretending names weren't shields. She lies about her name at the diner, Wells Garage, early evening. The air inside the garage was still, the kind of quiet that usually followed bad news or slow business. A single light buzzed overhead as Wells cleaned his hands with a stained towel. The mail had come earlier, left untouched on the counter beside a jar of broken pencils and a half-eaten granola bar. He reached for it now, flipping through junk ads and unpaid invoices, until one envelope made his hand pause. White, official. From the First State Bank of Clearview. He didn't open it right away. He always knew it was coming. Business had slowed. Repairs didn't pay like they used to. And pride couldn't be deposited. He slit the envelope open with the edge of a screwdriver. Read it once, then again. Final notice. Outstanding balance, $8,137.16. Foreclosure proceedings will begin in 15 business days. His breath caught somewhere in his chest. He folded the paper slowly, like folding it right might change the words. From the far room, Emily's laughter rang out, tangled in a TV cartoon's theme song. He smiled at the sound, but it didn't reach his eyes. He opened the large red toolbox behind the counter, tucked the letter deep beneath a tray of spark plugs and receipts, closed it with a soft clang. Wells Garage, sunset. The light outside turned to rust. The sign on the door read open, but no cars rolled in. Only shadows stretched longer with each passing hour. Wells leaned on the garage frame, watching the sky. Some things you fix with a wrench, some with silence. He hides the letter in his toolbox. Behind Wells' garage. Midday. Sunlight danced across a patch of wildflowers that had clawed their way through rust and ruin. The scrapyard wasn't beautiful by any common measure, but in its rebellion against decay, it held poetry. Claire sat cross-legged on a blanket spread between two rusted fenders. A thermos, sandwiches, and a plastic container of sliced peaches sat between them. Claire. You really eat lunch out here? Wells, shrugging. On good days, when the breeze is soft, and the silence listens back. She looked around. At brake drums, old bumpers, and wild daisies stubbornly blooming through them. Claire. You ever think about leaving? Wells sometimes. But I got roots here. And Emily? She waters them. Claire smiled at the mention of his daughter. Claire. I used to think money meant freedom, but sometimes it feels more like a leash. Wells, softly. It can be if someone else holds the other end. She grew quiet. Claire. My mom used to bring me picnics. Before, everything changed. She'd make lemonade from scratch and pretend the world wasn't breaking behind her smile. Wells. Where is she now? Claire, long pause. Gone. Cancer. Took her quick. Like a thief with no manners. He nodded, letting the silence do the comforting. Wells. My wife, too. Em was just a baby. Some losses don't fade. They just learn to sit quieter. Their eyes met. Claire, softly. My name's not really Anne. She stopped herself. He waited. She just shook her head. Claire. Sorry. Old habits. Wells didn't push. Wells. When you're ready. A bird landed nearby, pecking crumbs between metal bones. She nearly tells him her real name, but doesn't. Hilltop Estate. Night. The mansion sat like a crown on the hill. Marble columns glowing under chandeliers strung through trees. Violinists near the fountains. Waiters balancing trays like glass-tipped dancers. Claire stood near the edge of the crowd. Heels back on, hair swept tight, grease long washed away. A champagne flute dangled between her fingers like it belonged to someone else. Some places didn't feel like memories. They felt like traps carved in crystal. She'd been invited weeks ago. Before the flat tire, before the garage, before Emily's crayon hearts. She'd come only to keep up appearances. She wished she hadn't. A man's voice broke through the music. Dexter, silk smooth, cruel underneath. Well, well, the lost Whitmore finally returns. Claire turned. Dexter was tall, tailored, and exactly how she remembered. Charming and venom-laced. Claire, didn't think you'd still be haunting these fundraisers. Dexter, didn't think you'd be crawling back with engine grease under your nails. Her hand flinched around the glass. His eyes gleamed. Dexter, closer. They say you've been spending time in the flats. With some mechanic? She didn't answer. The silence was answer enough. Dexter. Slumming it again, Claire? That name, her real name, sliced the air. She blinked. Just once. Then turned away. Claire, calm, cold. Enjoy your wine, Dexter. You still drink cheap, don't you? She left before he could spit something back. Parking area. Night. She sat behind the wheel of her Benz, hands gripping the steering wheel, breathing shallow. She looked at her reflection in the mirror. City Claire, hidden Claire, half versions. Then, slowly, she started the engine and drove back toward the garage, toward the girl who called her pretty, toward the man who never asked her name. The ex smirks. Slumming it again, Claire? Wells' garage, late afternoon. The rain had passed, leaving the air thick with silence and the scent of wet metal. Wells sat behind the counter, flipping through an old carburetor manual he'd already memorized. Emily lay on the floor with crayons, drawing a dog that looked more like a potato. The bell above the door jingled. Claire stepped in, hair damp, coat folded over her arm. She looked tired, not from the drive, but from something heavier. Claire. Hey, thought I'd stop by. Brought that peach pie Em liked. Wells didn't smile. He nodded toward the counter. A folded newspaper lay there. Today's Times. The front page read, Heiress Claire Whitmore resurfaces at Whitmore Gala after year-long disappearance. The photo. Her in the black dress. Champagne. Glittering eyes. Caught mid-laugh beside Dexter. Claire froze. Wells. Quietly. Claire? The way he said it. Like the word tasted wrong in his mouth. Claire, I was going to tell you. I swear I was. I just, every time felt like it would ruin everything. Wells, measured. So you let me look stupid? In front of this whole town? Claire. No, I wasn't hiding you. I was hiding me. She stepped forward. He stepped back. Wells. You lied, Anna. Or Claire. Or whoever you really are. Emily looked up from the floor, eyes wide, silent. Claire's voice cracked. Claire, please. Just let me explain. Wells didn't answer. He grabbed his coat from the hook, walked out the back door. Didn't look back. The pie box stayed on the counter, untouched. He walks away when she tries to explain. Wells' garage, early morning. Dust danced in sunbeams that had no audience. The garage, once full of clanking tools and childish giggles, now sat in stillness. The radio, always on, always humming, was silent. Wells moved like a man underwater. Slow, mechanical. He wiped the same wrench 3 times, then placed it down and wiped it again. He wasn't angry at the name. He was angry at what it meant. Distance. Walls rebuilt in seconds after weeks of them slowly falling. Claire hadn't come back. Not since that night. The pie box still sat unopened on the counter. Kitchen, same morning. Emily poked at her cereal. No crayons, no tiara, no spark. Emily. Softly. She's not coming back, is she? Wells looked away. The silence said enough. Main Street, later that week. May's Diner. Town hardware store. The feed shop. People nodded politely, then whispered once he passed. Small towns had long memories and louder mouths. Garage. Evening. Wells opened the red toolbox, pulled out the letter from the bank, read it again. No surprise, just a final bell. He set it down beside a yellow sticky note from Emily that read, Don't give up, Daddy. Love you. He closed his eyes for a moment, then reached for a Sharpie. Wells' garage. Next morning, a wooden stake stood in the gravel beside the lot. Rain from the night before made the soil soft. Wells hammered it in, tied the sign with wire, for sale. Inquire within. Some things don't break. They just go quiet long enough to disappear. The for sale sign goes up outside the garage, Wells' garage. Rainy afternoon. The sky wept harder than the town ever could. Fat drops hit the gravel like apology letters too late in the mail. Wells was inside, shutting down the compressor, when the bell above the garage door jingled. He didn't look up. Wells. We're closed. Claire. OS. I noticed. He turned. She stood in the open doorway, drenched. No driver. No umbrella. Just heels soaked through and a navy suit clinging to her skin like regret. Claire. I figured you'd slam the door. You want me to leave? Wells, you came dressed for court. Not for an apology. Claire. I'm not here to defend myself. I'm here to fight for something. Wells. You should have fought before the truth showed up in newsprint. She stepped in slowly, dripping on the concrete. Claire. I should have told you. I got scared. With you, things felt real, not earned or bought. Wells. Flat. That wasn't your decision to make. Claire. I know. She took a shaky breath. Claire. I called your bank. That got his attention. Claire, firmer. I'll buy the note. Pay off the garage. You won't owe them another cent. Wells blinked, stunned, not by her offer, but by the quiet in her voice. No ego, no pride, just rain. And a woman who had stood too long in both. Wells. Why? Claire. Because you helped me when I was just some stranger in heels with a flat tire. No questions, no judgment. She stepped closer. Claire, softly. Let me fix what I broke. He didn't speak. Not yet, but he didn't walk away either. She says, I'll buy the bank. Let me fix this. Wells' garage, office nook, late evening. The old desk wobbled under the weight of a printer that hadn't worked since 2009. Beside it, 2 coffee mugs steamed, one chipped, one clean. A printed contract sat between them, slightly damp from Claire's soaked sleeve. Wells sat on one side, arms folded, guarded but present, Claire on the other, nervous but grounded. Claire. It's not a handout. It's an investment. Wells. People like you invest in stocks, not rusted garages. Claire. People like me are tired of pretending their money makes them better. He scanned the contract. No hidden fine print. Just a clean, equal partnership agreement. Wells. You really want to do this? Claire, on one condition. He looked up, wary. Claire. You teach me. Not just the books, the bolts, the machines, everything. Wells. You don't even know the difference between a socket wrench and a crescent. Claire. Then I'm in the right place. A beat. Then, slowly, he reached for the pen. Garage. Next morning. Emily was sprawled across the floor, coloring on cardboard, crayons scattered like confetti. She looked up at Claire, who now wore jeans and a ponytail. Emily. Daddy says you're staying. Claire, smiling. If that's okay with you. Emily. Only if you help clean the bathrooms, too. They both laughed. Wells stepped in, wiping grease off his hands. He saw the cardboard drawing Emily was now taping to the wall. 3 stick figures. A sun. A garage. Underneath, us fixing things. He looked at Claire. Claire looked back, and didn't look away this time. His daughter draws another picture. Us fixing things. Wells' garage. Early morning to late afternoon. Montage. Claire stood by the open hood of a '92 pickup, sleeves rolled, lips pressed in concentration. Wells leaned against the wall, sipping coffee, letting her struggle. Just enough. Wells. What's the first thing I said about brake lines? Claire, groaning. Don't twist with the wrist. Let the tool do the turning. Wells. There you go. He handed her a wrench. She took it like it meant something. Montage sequence begins. Claire dropping a socket wrench under the car. Claire laughing with grease across her cheek. Emily sitting on a milk crate watching proudly. Wheatie! Claire wiping sweat from her brow with the same rag she used on the engine, then cringing. Claire and Wells working side by side, barely speaking, perfectly synchronized. Montage ends. Garage front office. Late afternoon. Claire reached for a water bottle. Her white t-shirt had streaks of black oil across the front. Her nails, once polished pink, were now chipped and darkened. She looked in the mirror on the back of the supply closet door and smiled, not because she looked messy, but because she looked real. Garage bay, moments later. The bell above the door rang. A man in a suit stepped in. Customer. Excuse me, is this where I can find Miss Whitmore? Claire froze. Wells stiffened behind her. Claire turned. Slowly. Claire. Who's asking? Customer. Just someone looking for real work, not press photos. Claire looked down at her stained shirt, then back at him. Claire. You found her. A new customer arrives and calls her Miss Whitmore. Whitmore Global Boardroom, high-rise, day floor-to-ceiling windows. Views of a city Claire no longer felt part of. Polished table. Polished people. 12 board members sat in tailored silence. At the head, Richard Whitmore. Silver hair, jaw like a verdict. Her father. Claire entered in flats, ponytail, and a shirt still faintly smudged with engine grease. A few eyebrows lifted. Richard, you're 2 weeks behind on your quarterly briefing. The press is digging. Your absence at last week's gala didn't go unnoticed. Claire. Neither did my presence at the one before it, Richard. Is this about the mechanic? Murmurs Richard, Conte D. You're being photographed under cars, Claire, with socket wrenches and children's drawings taped to your walls. Do you understand what you're throwing away? Claire looked out the window, then back at the men who thought owning things meant knowing her. Claire, everything that matters to you doesn't matter to me anymore. Board member, you're an heiress, not a grease monkey. Claire, calmly, no, I'm a woman who finally knows what love looks like when it isn't wrapped in stock options. Richard, if you walk out of here and keep playing house in that shack, you lose it all. Claire reached into her folder, pulled out the paperwork. Already signed. Claire. I already did. She slid it across the table. Her shares, her inheritance, her name, in ink. Richard. You're making a mistake. Claire. Maybe, but at least it's mine. She turned and walked out. No one followed. Street below. Moments later, the city loomed above her, cold and massive. But her smile was soft. Her hands still smelled like gasoline, and she didn't wipe them clean. She signs away her shares in front of them. Wells Garage, morning sunlight. The for sale sign was gone. In its place, Whitmore and Wells Auto, honest repairs, real people. The paint was fresh. The logo hand-lettered by Emily herself, shaky but proud. Balloons swayed on the fence posts. A banner read Grand Reopening in bold red. Cars lined up along the road. Locals wandered in, curious, some skeptical, most smiling. Montage. Claire adjusting a tire gauge for a teen driver. Wells showing Emily how to stamp invoices. Easter, free coffee and donuts on a folding table. Claire laughing, grease on her cheeks, not caring. Townsfolk shaking hands, clapping backs, whispering to each other like they'd just witnessed something rare. Garage. Midday, a local news crew arrived. Camera, mic. A young reporter approached Claire near the tool wall. Reporter, Miss Whitmore. Claire, sorry. Just one question. Why? She wiped her hands with a shop towel and looked around. At Wells refilling coolant, at Emily drawing hearts on the chalkboard wall. Claire. Why what? Reporter. Why walk away from all that wealth? That world? Claire thought for a moment. Claire, softly. Because none of it ever hugged me back. The reporter blinked. Claire smiled. Genuinely. Wells Garage. Later that day, as the sun dipped low, families drove off in repaired cars. Kids waved from back seats. Claire stood in the driveway beside Wells. He handed her a clean towel. Wells, you survived your first grand opening. Claire, barely. I think someone stole all our napkins. They both laughed. No tension, no secrets, just partnership. A reporter asks why she gave it all up. She simply smiles. Wells Garage, evening. The last car of the day rolled out. The bay door creaked shut. The garage exhaled. Tired, glowing, full. Claire pulled her hair into a loose bun, wiping her forehead with the back of her hand. Wells crouched near a dusty shelf in the corner. A tangle of wires. A forgotten box. Claire. What are you digging for? Treasure? Wells better. He pulled out a boxy vintage radio, covered in dust and stickers from decades past. Claire, grinning. You think that relic still works? Wells. Only one way to find out. He plugged it in. Nothing. He jiggled the cord, tapped the top. The dial lit up dimly. Wells, Contied. Now, just gotta find the right. A click. Static. Then, a soft, scratchy tune poured through the speaker. Moon River. Claire froze. Her breath caught. Claire, whispering. My mother's favorite song. Wells paused. Claire, Kant. She'd play it every Sunday morning while she cooked pancakes. Said it was the only song that ever made the kitchen feel like a church. Wells turned the volume up. The music filled the garage, echoing gently off the metal and glass. He walked toward her, slowly. Wells. You ever dance in motor oil? Claire, only with people worth slipping for. He held out his hand. She took it. They danced, soft, unhurried, beneath the old ceiling, under string lights that flickered like stars that had waited years to be noticed. No music but the old radio. No words but the ones they didn't need. They dance in the garage, under the same string lights. Wells' garage. Early morning. Golden light spilled in through the high windows. Coffee brewed. The radio hummed gently in the background. Claire knelt beside Emily at the low workbench. Crayons were scattered like memories, half-broken, well-used. Emily was drawing again, this time a garage with a heart in the middle. Emily. Does this look like us? Claire better. It looks like what we built. Wells entered from the back, wiping his hands with a clean towel. Claire stood. She looked at him. Really looked. With that rare softness saved for people who stayed. Claire, softly. You know, when I first showed up here, I didn't want to be seen. Wells didn't interrupt. He just listened. Claire, Conti D. I was testing something. Not the car. You. She walked over to the old cash counter where that first crayon drawing still hung. Her fingers touched its curled edge. Claire, Conti D. I was tired of men seeing my name and trying to own it. Tired of being chased for what I had. Not who I was. She turned to him. Claire, Conti D. But you never asked. Not once. Wells stepped closer. Quiet as always. Claire. I was never looking for a mechanic. A pause. Claire, Conti D. I was looking for a man who wouldn't ask who I was, unless I wanted to tell him. Wells smiled. Small, honest. Wells. Took you long enough. They both laughed. In T Garage, later, Emily taped a new sign on the wall. Drawn in bright red crayon, Fixed with Love. The daughter adds a new crayon sign to the counter. Fixed with Love.